Welcome back to Parnell Park. It is the last of the Dublin Senior Football Championship quarter-finals of the weekend. Ballymun Kickhams taking on the Fianna. They look to join Kilmacud Crokes, St Jude's and Ballyboden St Enda's in the draw. A draw which will be held live here on Dubs TV after this game. And we'll also have the Senior 2 Football Championship semi-final draw. Templeogue Sing Street overcoming Nave Olaf 216 to 2-6 this weekend. Coola beating Ballybockle 312 to 15 points. Naver Marnogue overcoming Trinity Gales 1-5 to 20 points, and St Sylvester's losing out to St Bridget's 113 to 19. So that's how the Senior 2 setup is. This is Senior 1. Already we've seen one close game. I won't say it was a cracker, but it was close and it was exciting. Ballyboden needing extra time to overcome Raheny 216 to 16 points. And now it is the turn of Nafina and Ballymun Kickhams. Ballymun Kickhams, the last time they won a title was 2012. For Nafina, it was 2001. It's too long a wait for a club of their stature. Coleman Goggins, only one will be left standing. Who do you think it will be?
Yeah, interesting. I think the Fianna last year were making great progress. Desi Farrell was obviously the manager with them last year, then stepped away obviously to take on the Dublin role. And there was a transition period there. Probably took the Fianna to get used to a new voice and a different style maybe of playing. So they've reached this stage, maybe not having the amount of game time they need just to knit in, I suppose, under new management. Ballymun are probably one of those teams who you'd feel probably should have more county titles over the last 10 years, given the squad talent that they have. They've probably been challenged by the fact that Dublin have been involved in All-Ireland finals for the last number of years, and you're bringing 5 or 6 guys back into a team who haven't had them. So it's not a case of slotting 1 or 2 guys in, it's 6 fellas you're looking to try and fit into a team, and that is a big bearing on the rest of the group and trying to get used to what those guys are bringing back into the team. There's no doubt that they're quality footballers, but when you're trying to slot them back into a group that hasn't seen them for 5 or 6 months, that becomes very difficult. So I guess the Fianna are a team who are maybe less household names, albeit they've had certainly a good few of them within it, in terms of Johnny Cooper, O Merchant, Conor McHugh. Ballymun have obviously got the standout names across your McCarthy's, McMahon's, Dean Rocks. So you'd probably favour Ballymun based on the scorelines they put up over their 3 games, averaging 3 goals across their championship games. Lots of scoring potential across the team. Nafina maybe haven't racked up as big a score, different type of teams they were playing against, more defensive type teams in their group as such. So Ballymun maybe you'd favour to come out of the game, but certainly the way Nafina played last year and again into this year, they have the capability to cause an upset, as we've seen in the game prior to this. If for any reason Ballymun drop their standards, well, that's where a team can capitalise.
Well, Dean Rock is the name that immediately draws your attention on that starting 15. Philly McMahon not far behind him, but it's about the players around them, isn't it? And John Small is another name that jumps out, but David Byrne, James McCarthy, these are all go-to guys, and it's mad that they have such talent that it is McMahon and Rock who maybe catch your eye, and then James McCarthy, but it could easily be the other way around. They are actually ridiculously strong as a team, aren't they?
Yeah, and as I mentioned, look, the problem they have is they don't have these guys for a huge part of the year, and then they come back in and try and fit into a team 2 weeks out from a championship match. The benefit they've had over the last 8 or 10 weeks, and I think that's been evident in the games they've played, because they've had consistency across the team with guys in the positions that they're used to playing in. You understand the runs that James McCarthy make, you know how to give Dean Rock the ball, Paddy Small and John Small and what they bring. So then the guys around them start to grow and learn from those more experienced guys. So I think what Ballymun have demonstrated, they've come together as a unit. They know their best 15. They have had opportunity to work with them over the last 8 or 10 weeks, and they come into this game certainly favourites because of that.
Well, let's have a look at the Nafina team. And interestingly enough, Johnny Cooper is named at number 6. And maybe I'm reading too much into it, but he's not walking around with his jersey on under a bib in the warm-up, so I'm not sure if we can read anything into that. He is named in the starting 15 with Niall just behind him. Conor McHugh is a goal-getter when given the right kind of ball. Glenn O'Reilly can do damage as well. Dean Ryan, the Clare inter-county player, can get up and down the pitch, so that is a team that can challenge Ballymun.
Yeah, great half-back line, real attacking prowess in it. They've some young forwards there in Aaron Byrne, Glenn O'Reilly. Conor McHugh has been around a good while, part of a Dublin squad with winning All-Ireland. So they have potential in their forwards in terms of getting scores, but they come up against a formidable Ballymun outfit in respect to that. That half-back line will need to be well tuned in and try and support from an attacking point of view. They'll also need to be dropping back to support the full back line because of the threat that's within there. Fake Andrews has been very good for Ballymun, and then he's got 2 great guys either side of him in Small and Rock in terms of score getting. So there's huge pressure on Nafina from a defensive point of view. They probably need to just set up a little bit differently, to be aware of that threat, but they can't take away from their own game plan, which is to support the likes of Aaron Byrne and Glenn O'Reilly in attack, and then see if they can get Conor McHugh on the ball, because he's very clinical when he gets opportunities in front of goal.
Na Fianna have had potential for a while now. At some stage, there has to be pressure on them. You kind of give them a pass when there's a lot of young players in the team, but that pass surely is gone at this stage. They have to deliver now.
Yeah, they won a good few underage county titles, under 20, 21 titles, and there was guys coming through off them that you expected that they'd, bring them through and get success at senior level. That hasn't been the case. You mentioned how far back it is since they won county titles, won 3 on the spin, I think, back at that time, but it's been a big dearth since then, and they haven't really challenged. Last year they probably had a couple of opportunities, and they were unlucky maybe that Ballymun got the better of them, and they had opportunity to maybe get past them and push forward in the championship. So this year they come in having to change things around a little bit because of the fact that their manager changed, with Desi Farrell taking on the Dublin senior role. So do you give them a pass? Yeah, certainly for a period of time, but they're a young group now who are developing. There's a bit of experience to them, there's some physicality to them. Ballymun is a huge challenge for them, but if you want to win a Dublin senior title, you're going to have to beat the big teams at some point, and maybe a quarter-final isn't a bad stage to get them, and it give you an opportunity to try and push forward into a semi-final.
Ballymun, we saw them on TV a couple of weeks ago, and they were irresistible. They were very strong that night. James McCarthy with a wonder goal. Johnny Cooper, by the way, still not wearing his number 6 jersey. He's still in a training top. He is there in the shorts and the boots, as you can see. He's in or around the 20-metre line, but he's not moving around a whole pile now. Just as I say that, he goes off on a little bit of a sprint. Ballymun, to our right-hand side, are doing their final huddle, and I wonder what is being said in that huddle. They are managed by Brendan Hackett, who would be more known as a coach than a manager, but they have looked good so far.
Yeah, they've been brilliant, and it's the pace that they have. We were just looking at them in their warm-up there, and everything done was done at 100 miles an hour. And if you look back on any of their games, that's the way they've been playing at the moment. It's all about pace. It's all about supporting guys in possession. It's making those clever runs and timing and getting the timings right around them. There's no doubt about it that they've scores across their forwards, but it's their ability to create goals. And it's ultimately those goals that win championship games for you when the press comes on. You've seen in the previous game with Ballymun, despite the fact that they struggled for long periods, they were the ones who managed to get the couple of goals that seen them over the line. And it is absolutely a cliche that goals win games, but Ballymun certainly have it within them, at the pace to create those overlaps, to have the likes of James McCarthy coming through on the fly. And when that happens, then it's difficult for a defensive team to mark up on that or to pick up on that, because that straight line running is a hard line to mark and to tag.
We know you'd rather be in Parnell Park than watching it on your phone, or watching it on your TV, or watching it on something that you're streaming from your phone to your TV. But unfortunately, the way it is, only the players and match officials and those of us lucky enough to commentate are allowed in. We would love to hear from you, though. We'd love if you were part of this day, and you can contact us via @DubGAA official. That's where you'll find us on Twitter. Desmond Adebayo contacted us during the first game. He's a former Raheny player who's now in Lagos in Nigeria. He enjoyed the game, maybe didn't enjoy the results so much because Raheny lost, but his boys gave it one hell of a rattle. Here is Aaron Naveen. Happy to report that Johnny Cooper is now in his number 6 jersey, so I can stop Sky Sports newsing and sensationalising. He does start, he is in there. Message in from Niamh Ferguson, a Meath lady living in Dublin. She says, is there a better duo than yourself and Coleman? Well, Zig and Zag, Anton Deck, Statler and Waldorf, Owen and Shearer. They don't talk anymore, but still a good duo.
It just looks like James Doran is going to start for Na Fianna. He's inside in the corner forward there. Philly McMahon looks like he's going to do a job on Conor McHugh, certainly taking on that role. So late change for Na Fianna there.
Our referee, by the way, is Seamus Farley from your own club, Ballantyre St John's.
Yeah, and sorry again, just looks like Dylan Keating there, 18 Ballymun is also starting. Niall Cooper is out, centre back. Looks like Dylan Keating is starting there for Ballymun.
James McCarthy cleverly holding down his man, but Na Fianna get the ball nonetheless. Ballymun Kickhams in the green and red, Na Fianna in that kind of yellow and blue as one might call it. Niall McGovern probing ball inside, but it just gets away from James Doran.
Yeah, such power behind the hand pass, just a little bit overcooked, but good movement from Na Fianna. Nice start.
Evan Comerford, the heir apparent to Stephen Cluxton, the only man in Dublin who probably wants Stephen Cluxton to retire. Has got championship game time, has impressed for DCU in the Sigerson Cup over the years. Owen McHugh collects it down the line to Aaron Byrne. Byrne has an option short, runs into trouble and gets dispossessed, and now it'll be picked up by Brian Ashton. James McCarthy. A cushion ball down the line for Dylan Keating to run onto, but he was covered by Niall McGovern. McGovern gets it going quick to Niall Cooper. Owen McHugh. Well, of all the players out there, many of them are current Dublin players, but even the ones who aren't have probably represented Dublin at some stage or at some grade.
Yeah, significant talent on display, and you can see how comfortable guys are on the ball, that they've experienced at top level. Realise possession is the key thing, so you don't want to give it away, particularly against either of these sides, because they're so lethal in attack.
Even the non-dubs have represented Dublin. Paddy Quinn playing for Na Fianna, a Tyrone man, but he's lived in Dublin for a long, long time, was part of the wider panel for a while. James McCarthy running ahead of Keeley, but didn't receive it. There's a foul, it's a free in.
Yeah, great work from Leon Young there, got out in front to Conor McHugh to break the ball away. Real commitment to the tackle and to win the ball, and manages to orchestrate a turnover. What a pass. That's
a brilliant ball inside. Now, can he take advantage? Yes, he can. And what would you expect? Yeah, Dean Rock left free. Yeah, you wonder how.
I wonder when your decision making, you win a ball like that, and you look up and there's Johnny Cooper in front of you, and Dean Rock and Johnny Cooper would know each other well. Do you say, yeah, maybe the right thing here is to go?
Oh, they've given it away again. It's Paddy Small. Is there a goal on? There was, but it was missed by Davy Byrne.
Yeah, got his angles all wrong there. You could see even on the spin that he thought he was in a different position to the goal there. Before he even let it off his boot, you realise that he thought he was further along. Goalkeeper obviously looking to orchestrate a quick kick out. Left it well short. Picked up by Paddy Small, I think it was, who fed it across then to Davy Byrne, and just swiveled. But just got his bearings a little bit wrong and pulled it right at the post.
Stephen Murray goes long this time. But Ballymun get it back, and it's McCormack. Dean Rock is running on the right this time. Dean Rock has already got one from the left. Doesn't get one from the right this time.
Yeah, not a regular sight and see Dean Rock pulling it like that, but Ballymun dominant early on from this Na Fianna kick out, so they're putting a real pressure on Stephen Murray in the Na Fianna goal.
Murray's aiming for the deep run of David Lacey. Johnny Cooper. Cooper down the line. David Quinn lets it go for Aaron Byrne, and it's a free in. Interestingly enough, for the last game, Anthony Rainbow is the manager of Ballymun St Enda's, but he wasn't actually here because he's locked down in Kildare.
Yeah, and we probably should have referenced that within the game. I'm sure he was connected in some way, shape or form. Maybe the fact that he wasn't here, was missing. He wasn't able to impart words of wisdom on the team, I guess. But look, with a bit of luck, he'll get a chance to do that in a semi-final, given that Ballyboden managed to eke it out. But yeah, I'm sure there's lots of people who'd like to be here, but one you would have expected to see obviously is Anthony Rainbow, but those restrictions obviously impacted on that.
Aaron Byrne kicking the free for Na Fianna. They're all square.
It's a bit like the House of Commons there. There's that much shouting going on there with people trying to push out and mark up and squeeze the press.
James McCarthy. McCarthy again. Inside, lovely ball to McCormack. This will be popped over. Good finish from Dylan Keating.
Yeah, I referenced it just before the game about the pace in which Ballymun were going through their warm-up, and it's similar there just to see, look how quick the ball is moving through the hands. Lovely pass from James McCarthy finds McCormack, who just throws it back to Dylan Keating to stick it over the bar. But the pace, the movement, the hands, all reflective of what they were trying to do in their warm-up. So they've certainly started like they meant to, bringing that pace and ambition to the game.
Johnny Cooper. Dylan Keating pounces. It was almost collected there by Fiach Andrews. Handled on the ground by Fianna and Johnny Cooper. It'll be free to Ballymun. Small, aiming at Ashton. Rock runs in front of Ashton, but instead he goes inside to Fiach Andrews. Back it goes to Ashton. Lovely ball to Dylan Keating. He's bottled up. Gets it away wonderfully to Small, who guides it over.
Yeah, it looked like Dean Ryan had done enough there on Dylan Keating to manage to get a turnover, but Small just appeared on his shoulder to pick up a pass. Fiach Andrews throws it back originally to Ashton, across to Keating. There was probably a pass outside, but great work from Dean Ryan here. Looked like he'd won it. Small just comes through at an angle there and pops it over the bar, and it's that support runner off the shoulder that we spoke about that's reaping dividends early on for Ballymun here.
McCarthy gets a hand on it, but it's McGovern who gets it on the break. Surging run by Glenn O'Reilly. McCarthy closed them down. Paddy Quinn. Glenn O'Reilly. Owen McHugh. Gus Farrell moves it on. Niall Cooper. Good ball by Cooper. Farrell. Really fine point.
Yeah, great score, great movement to support the player on the ball there. Managed to steer it over the bar. Fianna a little bit slower with their movement of the ball, but obviously that's their style of play. They're looking for a player to come around the corner, pick up the ball. So while slower than Ballymun, it's effective for them so far.
We're at the knockout stages of the Dublin Senior Football Championship. Long ball inside, keeper Stephen Murray read it well, but then he lost it, and then they lose it a second time, and it's Paddy Small who punishes them. But it could have been a far, far worse punishment.
Yeah, it did well to drop behind the goalkeeper after he dropped the ball there, so suddenly the goal chance that people maybe felt was on wasn't. I think it was Dean Ryan who maybe dropped in behind the ball, but Small again just coming around on the corner to get a great score.
McCormack can't handle it, it's Paddy Quinn. Paddy Quinn trying to get away from Paddy Small. Cooper. Cooper desperate for a Dublin senior football title. He has pretty much everything else. Here's McGovern. Quinn. McHugh. James McCarthy again there to block the route. It's overcarried and it's a free out for Ballymun.
Yeah, probably a bit harsh. It looked like he had turned back and got the soul of anywhere the overcarrying was probably just there before McCarthy had laid hands on him, but as he turned, he managed to get a solo on it. But either way, Ballymun come away with the ball, but ferocious in the tackle there from Ballymun. Everything being done at a high tempo by them.
McCarthy is looking sprightly. Normally, as you've already pointed out, when he's playing with Ballymun, he's had a hard season of it with Dublin. Here's James Doran. That's exquisite from Doran.
Yeah, but evident early on here, if you're anyway loose with your pass, anyway loose on the ball, that the opposition are going to punish you for a turnover. We noticed at the other side when Stephen Murray dropped the ball that Paddy Small got a score off it. Similarly there, and Fianna worked a turnover, spins round, and in the blink of an eye they flashed it over the bar. So, possession is really key thing. If you have it, you don't want to lose it, because if you do, you will be punished out here.
Collected by Gus Farrell. Conor McHugh is the target, but he is beaten to it by Owen Dolan. Dolan tries to run onto it. Flapping at it was Paddy Quinn, and he gets it back, much to his credit. Owen McHugh. David Lacey. Cooper back to Quinn. Dean Ryan. David Quinn. Glenn O'Reilly goes for it from a long way out, and it just drifted off frame.
Yeah, not sure about the decision there. Obviously you can see what he's trying to do in terms of get a score after a bit of possession from the Fianna, but no point in rushing it. Make Ballymun sit back, make them work hard around trying to orchestrate a turnover. Don't give it away cheaply by taking maybe the wrong option in terms of shot selection that time.
Philly McMahon moving it on to Carl Keeley. Today was supposed to be the All-Ireland final day, and I don't think I'm stretching anyone's imagination by saying Dublin probably would have been there, and I say that as a Waterford man. But isn't it good that we have football? We'd love if there was crowds here. Unfortunately, at the moment that can't happen, but this better than nothing, and we're being served up a good game. We've been served up 3 good games before this already this weekend on Dubs TV. Fiach Andrews drifted that one in beautifully, and now all 3 starting forwards in the full forward line have scored for Ballymun.
Yeah, great score for Fiach Andrews there. Again, getting the guy in the right place in terms of possession and then taking the shot on rather than giving it a hopeful hit from 40 yards out the field. So again, you can just see the ability of both teams in terms of retaining possession and then find the right guy to try and get the score. Probably the Fianna or Ballymun working that little bit better with their full forward line, and Fiach Andrews back helping out defensively as well.
Leon Young, lovely ball, sat up nicely. Over the top it goes from Rock. Paddy Small, already he scored 2 points. Murray, out it goes to Johnny Cooper. Johnny Cooper down the line to Owen McHugh. David Lacey. Moved on. Aaron Byrne. Shapes and shoots. And puts just one between them.
Yeah, great score. It just found that little bit of space, so they've struggled to get into the space, but in that instance just popped over the head of Owen Dolan, managed to get into space, Aaron Byrne, and then pop it over the bar. So space will obviously be at a premium just when Ballymun hadn't managed to reset themselves. Great score by Byrne.
Philly McMahon was backing the man inside there, but he was beaten to it, and Fianna coming back up the park. Now can they punish Ballymun? Here's David Lacey. Evan Comerford, Leon Young, Owen Dolan, John Small, McCormack, into the middle, and Leon Young. Good take by Davy Byrne. Tries to shrug off Dean Ryan. It's a free into Ballymun. McCormack makes a run, but he's covered. So Dean Rock has to run out to it. Good move by Keeley. Dean Rock wants it back, but McCormack drives on inside to Keeley, who's at a tight angle. Switched it onto his right and finished it beautifully.
Yeah, great score, and as you rightly said, often it's not the big name guys who are making those key runs and getting those key scores. Did great to give a pass, moved on again, received a return, and then stuck it over the bar again. Was maybe looking for a half chance to open up into goal, but great score from Keeley.
James Doran tries to pick out McHugh and does. Dolan and McMahon closed him down, but he was able to get it to Aaron Byrne. Byrne loses, regathers. Byrne and McHugh playing their own game there in that little left corner. Out it goes. Ono D is the aim. Ono D receives, and then he's fouled by James McCarthy. It was not shoulder to shoulder, says Seamus Farrelly, the referee.
Yeah, probably just opportunity for Conor McHugh to drift back around Aaron Byrne there, rather than having to drift back out the field. So they did well to retain possession. Then when it came back out, James McCarthy just came across a little bit too quickly to put on the brakes and gives away the free. So chance for Byrne to narrow the gap to 1. a little bit slower in possession, the Fianna, not giving Conor McHugh the opportunity in front of goal, but still creating chances. Great kick from Aaron Byrne, well within his range, just lofts it up over the bar. Great score, heads into the water break, not a bad return just before the little break.
We're seeing some really high quality score taking in this game, and we've seen it in the other three this weekend as well.
Yeah, and what you're seeing is response pretty much score for score. We seem to be travelling a lot of time. Apart from Ballymun getting 2 on the spin there after about 5 or 6 minutes, it's pretty much been score for score. So there's no one given opportunity to build out a lead, albeit that Ballymun have probably created the best of the chances. David Byrne had that goal chance that he just pulled wide. I think he probably got the bearings wrong in front of goal. And Fianna a little bit, I won't say ponderous, but slower in terms of their ideas around possession, and have maybe taken a couple of pot shots from 40 yards out, whereas Ballymun have been that little bit clever with the ball in terms of moving it into their forwards, and certainly moving at a different pace maybe than the Fianna's forwards are. But both managers will reset with a view to lining up the teams again. Interesting that the Fianna have broken into a couple of groups, maybe just to divide out what they're being asked to do, I guess. But they'll be happy enough, I suppose, the Fianna, without having maybe had the same level of possession of Ballymun have had, to be just that point behind.
Water break over, we're set to resume. 1 between them, Ballymun lead. We'd love to hear from you, by the way. You can contact us via Twitter at DubGAAOfficial. Highlights and reaction to this game will be available on the Dublin GAA social media channels in the hours and days after the match. By the time we do put those up, we'll know who will be playing who in the semi-finals. St Jude's, Kilmacud Crokes and Ballyboden St Enda's all in the hat for the draw that will be made after this game. Who will join them, Ballymun or Fianna? Evan Comerford just evaded Brian Ashton. Picked up by Lacey, who's fouled. Quinn back to Cooper. Niall Cooper, that is. Niall McGovern. Glenn O'Reilly. O'Reilly maybe thought the 1-2 was coming his way, but McGovern went with a different option. Paddy Quinn. In it goes. Just over the hand of James Doran.
Yeah, just struggling to find a little bit of space in front of the forwards there. Ballymun are rightly putting a press on the guy with the ball, but also then trying to fill the gaps in the space in behind. So those little pop passes that maybe they've worked on just aren't working for them at the minute because of that lack of space in front of the full forward line.
Ball broke into the path of Owen McHugh. Now it's Niall McGovern. David Quinn. Niall Cooper makes the overlapping run. Gives it back to David Quinn. Niall Cooper goes for it. It wasn't far wide, but it was wide.
Yeah, unlucky. I guess Conor McHugh just managed to peel away from Philly McMahon just before Cooper had to go at the posts there. So maybe it was a pass on, but not a bad execution of it. Just pulled a little bit towards the end there. Again, just difficulty in finding the space in front of the forwards, and as such then it's fallen on maybe guys who aren't as comfortable taking shots, that they're getting the ones who are getting the shot away, and it's from that little bit further out.
Keeley. Philly McMahon. Dylan Keating. Fiach Andrews. James McCarthy. When he calls for the ball, you give it to him. It's a little bit aimless. Small tries to get there, but Ono D beats him to it. Dean Ryan.
the pace that Ballymun started, it just seems to have left them there a little bit. They're struggling now to find those passes that they had done so well to hit in the first 10, 12 minutes. And maybe Fianna's, the way Fianna are playing it and just sucking the pace out of the game is suiting them. And Ballymun struggling then to just lift the game because of the way Fianna are sucking the pace out of it.
Dean Ryan. Gus Farrell moves it out to David Quinn. Gus Farrell free on the inside. Has a pop. And Fianna have an equaliser.
Yeah, great score. A lot more, just clinical and slow with their passes. Yeah, they're taking the shot from a distance out and not managing to find their inside line. But because of the way they're playing the game, Ballymun are having to step back from that 100-mile-an-hour game that they'd like to play. And as such, then they're not just able to push through as they were in those first 10 or 12 minutes.
Philly McMahon finds the hands of Small. Small inside, aiming at Rock. Pushed out by Cooper into the path of a green and red jersey. Here is Dean Rock. Ashton got there, pushed it out to Rock, but Rock couldn't finish.
Yeah, a couple of wides from Dean Rock when you'd expect that he'd managed to get a few scores on it. Johnny Cooper did well to get out in front of him. Sometimes that early ball works a treat. As seen there, if Dean Rock is left inside, he's well able to win his own ball. Just hasn't managed to get those couple of scores.
Now Cooper. Aaron Byrne. Niall McGovern was completely uncovered or free in the centre, but they didn't spot him. David Lacey. James Doran made a run inside. Instead they go outside to Owen McHugh. Paddy Quinn. Niall Cooper. Cooper finds some space now, gives it to Niall McGovern. Conor McHugh. That's a golden strike by McHugh.
Yeah, great score. Probably the first time that he's managed to get on the ball, and while he's 30 yards out from goal, he's clinical there. But Ballymun's problem is now they're having to play a lot of the game without the football. Now Fianna are holding on to it. They're getting 10, 12, 15 passes before they get a shot away. And without the ball, then you can sense that a little bit of frustration is growing. So Ballymun maybe just need to settle on the ball. Absolutely, if you can get on the ball at 100 miles an hour in terms of passes, great, but silly turnover there and over carrying steps. So just giving the Fianna opportunity to dictate the pace of the game, and as such Ballymun are having to sit back and watch too often and not get on the ball enough. Substitution early.
Well, going off is Cameron McCormack, or is it Brian Ashton? McCormack was jogging over. Ashton is gone off. Quite see who came on. Might have been Aaron Elliott. Yeah, it is Aaron Elliott. Here's Doran. Wonderful. His second.
Yeah, great score from James Doran. That's 4 on the spin, but 3 since after the water break for Fianna. Great score. And I've mentioned about the distance they're kicking the scores from, but they clearly have guys able to do that. But they're absolutely dictating the pace. And Ballymun playing without the ball, just find it hard to get that momentum that they initially started the game with.
Leon Young gets inside the Fianna territory. Byrne. The aim is Rock, who was well covered there by Cooper. He's after giving away a free, but it could have been far worse had Rock got clean ball.
Yeah, probably no need to come through the back of him. It would have been difficult for Dean Rock to collect that, then also beat him and stick it over the bar. So absolutely you don't want to concede, allowing Dean Rock to you don't want to see Dean Rock picking up the ball free in front of goal and managing to get a couple of scores, but a chance just to trim the gap. 2-point lead currently for, I think, the 2-point lead for Fianna, so just a chance to trim the gap down to 1, and having played a lot of the second quarter here without the ball, keeps Ballymun in touch.
A score that they needed.
Yeah, well, they've just been playing a lot without the football. They're probably gone 10 minutes without a score. Ballymun haven't seen a huge amount of the ball to even try and get scores. That pace that they like to play the game at, Fianna are doing their best to try and not allow them to do that. Great break there from James McCarthy, gives Ballymun a turnover.
First score since the water break for Ballymun. Here's Cameron McCormack. Just goes behind James McCarthy, who couldn't control it with his outstretched arm. Coming away is Owen McHugh. Glenn O'Reilly goes long. Who's there? Conor McHugh. Too much on it.
Yeah, great ball in. Looked like Conor McHugh had stolen the march in behind Philly McMahon there, and maybe if he just committed a little bit towards the ball, might have stuck a little bit better to him rather than just sailing over his head. But first time really that they managed to get in behind Ballymun, just couldn't manage to get hands on it.
James McCarthy. Philly McMahon. Byrne. Dolan. Keeley uses his pace to move quickly up the park. Lovely bobbing run. Ball goes to Small. Dean Rock took on the responsibility but dropped it short. Gus Farrell. It's 2-on-3 in favour of Ballymun inside, so Farrell has to go backwards to James Doran, who was lucky to get it. He did well to get it. James Doran again. David Lacey. Lacey with an angled ball, but again there's just a little bit too much pace on that, and McHugh just couldn't quite keep it in.
No, he seems to have kept it in. The problem is that he seems to have turned it over to Ballymun, so we'll see in maybe a minute or so whether the right decision was to keep it in or leave it.
It looked well over, I have to say.
Yeah.
Cameron McCormack. Byrne. Keeley. Keeley trying to get inside Dean Ryan. Keeley gets his shot away, but again, there's just not enough on it. That's 2 or 3 times now they've dropped it in. Nafina leading 8-7. Inside to Niall McGovern. Niall McGovern gets through the cover. Has to go backwards though. Here's David Quinn. That's got a lot of air on it, but it's not accurate.
No, so they have had some success with scores from distance, but sometimes you'll just put too much on it and pull it, as he did in that instance. Niall McGovern has been great for Nafina. He's supporting defensively, but he's also helping out in terms of moving up with the field with the attack. Often Conor McHugh is just left inside on his own, and hence that pace that Nafina are playing with is to try and support so that they're not going straight to him and leaving him isolated. But so far it has been working well for them the way they've been set up to play.
James McCarthy to Dean Rock. Dean Rock with Cooper and Ryan after him. Cooper gets a hand in. That's wonderful defending. But it's left behind, and then Cooper kind of falls on the Ballymun player going through. Was it Paddy Small? It might have been, but either way the referee plays on.
Yeah, but certainly Paddy Small who hit the deck. It did look like Cooper was coming across him there to try and prevent him getting the ball, and Small remains down.
David Lacey. Conor McHugh comes out to try and meet him, but Lacey carries on. Here's Glenn O'Reilly. Now it's McHugh. McHugh back outside to Lacey and Glenn O'Reilly. And over it goes.
Yeah, great feat there from Conor McHugh to create the space for the score. Took a couple of steps and then popped a pass, so we can just see when he picks up the ball, throws a shimmy and then gives it back to create the space, and then over the bar for Nafina. A great score.
Fiach Andrews. If that goes over, it's some score, but it's going to drop short. Rock tried to get under it but couldn't get there. He was shielded so well by Johnny Cooper, who's having a really good game.
Yeah, he is. And what was working so well for Ballymun early on was guys coming off the shoulder at pace there. So that stopped for the last 10 or 15 minutes. So you have the likes of Fiach Andrews taking the shot. You had Dean Rock before that where Johnny Cooper managed to get a hand in to orchestrate a turnover. What you don't have is the guys coming on the shoulder in the last 15 minutes. And as such, Ballymun have gone without score, so they've only one got in the last 15 minutes or so.
James Doran. Lovely ball to McHugh. McHugh! Oh, what a finish! A beautiful delivery and an even better finish.
Yeah, what a goal. He hasn't got on too much ball, but very simple stuff. Johnny Cooper initially that had come out with the ball in from Doran. Philly McMahon is coming across. You could see what in his mind, McHugh. He felt there was a half step there he had on Philly McMahon. place it into the corner of the net. Great goal from Fianna, and that pace that Ballymun like to play at, which has been missing, is causing them a huge problem, because Fianna are starting to grow into the game. Their tactics are working well for them at the moment, and that space that was there, that they were struggling to get that little pop pass, that's probably the first one they've hit in 30 minutes, and it resulted in a goal.
Executed perfectly. Evan Comerford at full stretch. He could do nothing to stop that.
Like, it's a 5-point gap from nothing really for Fianna, but that's probably the first time that Ballymun haven't had numbers behind the ball. Like Cooper not overly happy with the decision from the referee, but again, important for Dean Rock. They have had limited score since the water break, just the one chance from a free for Dean Rock, but from an attacking point of view, a bit like Ballyboden in the previous game, they're just struggling to find that bit of fluency in the attack, and are reliant now on frees rather than the scores that have been coming so easy for them at the start of the game.
Dean Rock, a quiet game by his standards. Can he make some noise here? Yes, he can. 4 between them.
He'd missed a couple of chances, so an important one for him to get, both for his own confidence but for the team as well. We head into drift through injury time in the first half here. It's really Fianna who've dictated the terms of the game. They're asking questions of Ballymun, asking to do something different than maybe just playing at the 100-mile-an-hour game they like to do. Great movement from Cooper.
What a take from Cooper, and he tangles with Rock but gets the ball away anyway. Dean Ryan looking for McHugh and finds him. McHugh takes the mark. That is really well executed.
Yeah, just starting to exert a little bit of influence in that full forward line. We mentioned that they weren't getting those pop passes. Managed to show out in front, takes a great mark, gives himself a great opportunity of adding to his tally. This goes over, he'll have 1-2 for this first half.
The gap is back to 5. Conor McHugh with 1-2, as you say.
Yeah, quite clear the Fianna know exactly what they're about. Very sure on the ball, very sure looking for those passes. Didn't force them early on when they weren't on, but took a few scores from 35, 40 metres out. As we head for half time, they'll be delighted to be 5 points clear. Having maybe for the first 10 minutes kind of struggled to deal with the pace, they've certainly started to dictate the terms of play for the latter 20 minutes of the first half.
We've been treated to some good goals this weekend. Granted, nothing could top Kevin McManaman's. We'll see the Fianna's in just a moment, but first, some of the other scores from the first half. Paddy Small, at a time when Ballymun were going well.
Yeah, and these, in the first 50 minutes, it looked at Ballymun, everything they were going to hit was going to strike goal for them. They had lots of support play, lots of support runners. A nice score from Aaron Byrne there. We had mentioned about them just struggling to find those little pop passes in front of the forward line. But they had been, hanging into the game rather than being as dominant as they were in that second quarter of the first half. Nice score coming up here from Carl Keeley, who just followed up on his run and stuck it over the bar. They had a couple of goal chances in the first half. Ballymun didn't take them. Fianna, just before they are headed into the water break, they managed to get a couple of scores. But they've been strong, particularly as I mentioned in that second quarter, where they've stuck to their game plan. They didn't force any of the passes. Were happy to go lateral with the ball, and as things opened up, then that's where Conor McHugh's goal came from, where that first kind of pop pass in front of the fence worked out for them.
And that was a lovely score from Gus Farrell, 1 of 2 for him. They've worked the ball into shooting positions quite well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they have, and we mentioned that they've kicked a couple of wides because they've gone from 40 yards out sometimes, and while those scores sometimes go overs, a lot of the time they don't. But they're ultimately looking to try and get the right man to take on the shot, finding that extra pass that then gives the guy the chance of getting the score. Lovely work here to create a scoring opportunity at Conor McHugh's first score of the day, and since the 22nd mark he's been the go-to man for Fianna there with a couple of scores that he's gotten.
Ballymun, although they haven't played as well as Fianna, have got some nice points. Johnny Cooper fouling Dean Rock there. But outside of that, he's actually been very solid. But Dean Rock took this one well.
Yeah, and it's just been those couple of frees in the second quarter of the first half that Ballymun have had a score. So, prior to that, they'd opened up quite well with scores from play. A little bit of pace around it, but they've struggled then to get scores from play. Yeah, look, Johnny Cooper was reaching across there, but I don't think there was any intentional trip or any foul there that the referee was concerned with. Great work here in terms of moving the ball around for Conor McHugh. Great feet, gets the hop and then creates the space for the score to be scored by Glenn O'Reilly. And then I guess comes the score of the half really in terms of the goal. Great work popped into the middle. It's Doran who pops the ball in front of Conor McHugh. He's thinking here point, and then he sees he has a space, so just a metre or two, and suddenly said, I'm going for the goal here. And Philly McMahon just can't shut the door on him, and he sticks it into the corner. A really great goal, but it was a real, forwards play there. He identified the gap, identified he was going to go for the goal, and then delivered on that belief that he had.
Rock delivered a free here to narrow the gap, but Na Fianna weren't done for the half yet. Good mark taken by Conor McHugh.
Yeah, borderline, and that he was probably just travelling to the 45 when he hit the ball, but yeah, well taken by McHugh, and having been quiet maybe for 20 plus minutes of that opening half, he suddenly came alive and finishes the half at 1-2.
Half time, Na Fianna 110, Ballymun Kickhams 8 points. The second half to come. Remember, if you'd like to say hello to us, whether you're watching in Dublin or anywhere else around the world, we'd love to hear from you. You can get us via Twitter at DubGAAOfficial. We appreciate while the games are on, you may not be able to come to it, and that's a huge loss to both the games themselves and the players, because they love having a crowd, and there's always a great atmosphere in Parnell Park, especially when you get to this kind of stage of the Dublin Championship. But unfortunately it can't happen. The games can happen though, and that is important and that is necessary. And just because you're not here, it doesn't mean we don't want to hear from you, and we do. And you can get us at DubGAAOfficial on Twitter. Ballymun Kickhams, well, they're trailing at the break against Na Fianna. One spot in the semi-finals left. The other three already decided. Ballymun St Enda's, after extra time today, beat Raheny 216 to 16 points. Yesterday there was wins for St Jude's over Skerry's Harps 117 to 110, and Kilmacud Crokes 415 to 112 winners against St Vincent. So it is St Jude's, Kilmacud Crokes and Ballymun St Enda's in the semi-finals. Will it be Ballymun Kickhams or Na Fianna joining them for the draw, which will be made here on Dubs TV live after this match? We'll also have the draw for the Senior 2 semi-finals. Well, we'll find out. I was going to say over the next half an hour, but it took more than that in the first game. We needed extra time. We might need it here as well. Half time, Na Fianna 110, Ballymun Kickhams 8 points. You'll still have the picture, but you won't have sound for a couple of seconds because we're going to take a break. But we will be back for the second half. Welcome back to the sunshine in Parnell Park. Half time in the final quarter final of the weekend. Fianna leading 110 to 8 points in this game. Dean Rock with 1 from play and 2 from frees for Ballymun. Dylan Keating, Fiach Andrews and Cameron McCormick all on 1 point. Paddy Small got 2. For Fianna, Aaron Byrne has scored 1 from play and 2 frees. Gus Farrell has got 2. James Dorn has got 2. Glenn O'Reilly with 1. And Conor McHugh with 1-2. Fianna getting 1-5 after the water break, and that is what has them in front. Coleman.
Yeah, like that second quarter was massive for Fianna. They've dictated the terms of play. They haven't allowed Ballymun to run at them. They have put real pressure on the ball, and 1-5 across that 15-17 minutes of the second quarter of the first half has put them in this promising position, albeit there's a lot of work to be still done for them.
This and Fianna team still without Owen Merchant as James McCarthy tries to let one go and does put it over.
Yeah, great score from James McCarthy. He did something similar in the last game, and that he got the first score of after the throw in there. So great work. Ballymun needed a score. James McCarthy leading by example in terms of bringing it through. Ballymun probably looking to put a bit of a stop on the quick kick out there and doing everything in their power to stop guys becoming free on that. So obviously a lot of talk around trying to put a press on the Fianna's kick out.
Owen Merchant not in the Fianna team, scored one of the great All-Ireland final goals, certainly from a Dublin point of view anyway. Gus Farrell collects it over the top for Ono D. Ono D takes off like a greyhound. Paddy Small is after pulling up. That's worrying and very worrying for Ballymun. Doran back over the top for OD. Can he get there? Comerford's off his line. Comerford does really well.
Yeah, they look like the physio who's in with Small gave a signal to the line there around a swap or a substitution, so it doesn't look good for Ballymun.
Well, there could have been a double blow there had that ball fallen to OD, but luckily Comerford came off his line smartly and bravely, it has to be said.
Yeah, overcooked, but great reading of the game. All goalkeepers, I suppose, play as an extra defender, and in that instance he did brilliantly to come out and snuff out the chance for OD.
Well, not to sound too much like Taylor Swift, but Paddy Small is going to try and shake it off. He's still on there. Byrne. McMahon. James McCarthy. Ballymun starting at pace again.
Yeah, well, this is how they started the first half, but it's impossible to go 100 miles an hour all the time, and sometimes you just need to check. Great pass.
Small goes to ground, wins the free. His shoulder was tugged on the way through, or his jersey in or around the shoulder, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so very replicant of the first half. Ballymun starting brilliantly, running at pace, guys coming off the shoulder, and the Fianna struggling to cope, particularly when guys are running at you direct like that. It's very hard to get an arm across or to win a turnover like that. So from the Fianna's point of view and their kick out, they're trying to retain possession. So following the kick here, it'll be interesting to see Ballymun squeezing up and the Fianna then trying to retain possession just to try and take the legs back out of Ballymun.
As you would expect, Rock guides it over. No score yet for Fianna in the second half. 2 for Ballymun. From 2 big name players as well, James McCarthy and Dean Rock. Ballymun have made a change. Andrew McCall has come in.
Yeah, interesting just on the kick out here. The Fianna have pretty much everyone outside the 45, so watch out for guys breaking into space here, and also watch Ballymun trying to stop guys moving into space.
Off camera, Paddy Small is limping up the stairs in the stand on the far side, so his day is done. Let's hope he's back if they get to the semi-finals. John Small squeezes the ball to Philly McMahon, who gives to Fiach Andrews, who takes on Glenn O'Reilly. He was just ambushed there, wasn't he? Owen McHugh. Niall McGovern. Big hit from Dean Rock. A clever one as well, because he won the line ball. Here's James McCarthy. He moves so gracefully, doesn't he, James McCarthy?
Yeah, I've often said that in another life I imagine that he'd be running for Ireland because he has such grace in terms of athleticism out there, but thankfully that never materialised, and he's been able to do it on the football field from a Dublin point
or
of view. Or
given the dexterity and balance that he has, a ballerina.
Yeah, well, I'll let you tell him that.
That's a massive compliment. They're great athletes.
They are, but I'm not sure I'd like to say it to James.
I'm a junior F hurler. I'm not afraid of anyone, except James, obviously. Given quickly to Owen Dolan. Conlon wanted it back but didn't get it back from Andrew McCall. How big a loss, by the way, is Paddy Small?
Yeah, massive, but I guess from Ballymun's point of view, this is the tempo they want to play at, so they've been brilliant at the start of the great work there. You know, arguably there was a foul committed, but referee said play on.
Carl Keeley was down, then bounced back up like a coiled spring. Paddy Quinn gives it back to James McCarthy. John Small. Oof. You could feel that from here. James McCarthy throws the shoulder at Glenn O'Reilly.
Yeah, and there was an off the ball incident I think before that, so there's an Fianna player down. The Fianna sideline not happy with what's gone on there, but you know, don't think anything was spotted. Yeah, big hit.
That's Ono D.
Yeah, we just mentioned that about dictating the pace. So Ballymun have started second half like lightning again, but Fianna are almost trying to match that. They were brilliant in the second quarter of the first half, where they took the pace out of it and still managed to create their scoring opportunities. So they don't need to match Ballymun in terms of their pace. They need to go back and play to their own way. But from a Ballymun point of view, they'll be delighted with the start they've had. 5 minutes into the second half, they've dominated possession, created a couple of scoring opportunities, and a third opportunity of a score in this second half. But you'd bank on Dean Rock sending over the bar.
It's a 2-point game. Dean Rock with the second of the second half, both from frees.
Yeah, well, quite clearly Ballymun, had lost the momentum in the second quarter of the first half. They've rediscovered that. They're playing with great pace, putting pressure on the Fianna's kick out. They're making it go long. That gives them a chance of picking up a break, if not a clean catch. The Fianna come away with it this time.
Glenn O'Reilly, it squirts out of his hands under pressure from Carl Keeley. It isn't a Fianna ball. Glenn O'Reilly was shouted at there by, I think, Niall McGovern. Give it to Davy Quinn, which he did. Davy Quinn trying to get away from James McCarthy. That's not really easy to do, is it? He's dispossessed by Davy Byrne. Cameron McCormack back to McCarthy. Cameron McCormack again. Back inside to John Small. Left a little bit short, but Ballymun win the free.
Yeah, great work by David Byrne before that to get the turnover. It was like cat crept up behind the Fianna player there, and just as he turned then to go left, he's just snuck in and knocked the ball out of his hand. So great pressure from Ballymun to get the turnover. No chance from Dean Rock just outside 45. Had his third of the second half here.
There's a little bit of messing in the square. Dean Rock takes the free regardless. And that goes over from Dean Rock.
Yeah, great shooting from Dean Rock. Maybe reliant on frees, but if the frees are going to bring you back into the game, that's why it's so important to have a player you can rely on to get those for you. I think from a Fianna point of view, they're coming out long. They are managing to pick up ball, but then they're turning it over as quick. I think it's probably important for them to look for some element of a short kick out. Goalkeeper probably doing his best here to tie the lace 3 times to slow it down a small bit. But they need possession of the ball. They need to go back to their game and try and implement that pace. If you look at what Ballymun are doing, they're trying to restrict movement for Fianna to run into where they were trying to win those free kick or those kick outs. So pressure on the goalkeeper now with a big kick out here.
Evan Comerford, by the way, is up outside his own 45.
Yeah, so goalkeeper looking out. It looks like an extra body. Great take.
Fantastic take. Gus Farrell. Evan Comerford making his way back to his own goal. Good take by Niall Cooper. Shovels it back inside to Paddy Quinn. Fianna yet to score in the second half. Aaron Byrne trying to escape the shackles of the defence. Niall Cooper, I beg your pardon, it's James Doran who goes to ground, showing off his soccer skills there. He wins the free in.
Yeah, important. Aaron Byrne, was doing his best to break free, but real intensity from Ballymun across the first 10 minutes of this second half. They had drifted out of the game first half. They've suddenly rediscovered that. They're working really hard, putting huge pressure on. Aaron Byrne trying to wiggle past 2. Possibly a free there, and that there was a bit of pulling going on. Lucky them, James Doran just touches the ball away to give Aaron Byrne a chance from this free.
Well, Ballymun have got 4 unanswered points, so Na Fianna could do with getting something, but they don't get it there. They've yet to score, as we say, in the second half, having scored 1-5 after the water break in the first half. It's dried up in the second half for them, though. Dean Rock once again giving a lesson in free taking, 5 so far today, plus 1 from play. Keeley. Good ball. Back to Keeley. It opens up for Ballymun. It's a shot from Jason Whelan. It's a point from Jason Whelan.
Yeah, that's a great score, and it comes off a ball dropping short from Aaron Byrne, where, you know, over the bar wide, you just don't want to give them a chance to build from the back. They managed to get the ball away, come up the field. A great score from Whelan, great pass inside to him, little pop ball in front to come around on the loop and then stick it over the bar. And Fianna really need to get a foothold here to try and grab a score.
They've reeled back in. David Lacey inside, looking for Aaron Byrne. Aaron Byrne is a long way from goal, or certainly at a very tight angle anyway. Byrne makes the angle kinder for himself, but it's not a good shot. James McCarthy lets it go to John Small. John Small spots that Dean Rock is in acres of space. Rock moves it on. Byrne just slows it down, takes his time, aims for the corner. Fine take, really good take by Andrew McCall.
Yeah, totally dominant now, Ballymun. Na Fianna had pushed up on the line, but no one looked over their shoulder to see where Dean Rock was. Got real nonchalant free, or mark there to knock it over the bar, and all of a sudden, you know, a 5-point deficit turns into a 1-point lead where Ballymun are in total control.
Ballymun by 1. Na Fianna need to control alt delete a bit here, I think.
Yeah, it's just a struggle for them to get on possession. I don't think they're giving the goalkeeper, I don't think they're giving Stephen Murray an option with a short kick out. Everything is having to go long. Yeah, they've won 1 or 2, but Ballymun have upped the intensity, they've upped the pressure. They're really putting a squeeze on Na Fianna. Looks like a yellow card there to Fiach Andrews, but they're just struggling to get their hands on the ball. Niall McGovern looks to be leaving the field.
Yeah, Alistair Fitzgerald has come in for Na Fianna against the Ballymun team, who now lead for the first time since just before the water break. Paddy Quinn. Owen O'D is free, but Johnny Cooper instead goes with the foot pass to Owen McHugh. Dean Rock tracking him. Doran, who created the goal with a wonderful pass. Niall Cooper. Brilliant dispossession by John Small. Niall Cooper tries to get it back, but he fouls his man and it's a free out. Cameron McCormack. Jason Whelan. James McCarthy. Good surge by Keeley. Back to McCarthy. Keeley's inside. McCarthy thought about taking it on, but gives it inside to Davy Byrne. Davy Byrne from a tight angle, but it was from a crowd. Oh, it's let go almost by James Doran. Then he regathers. David Lacey. Fitzgerald inside to McHugh. McHugh lets it beat him. He's got Philly McMahon chasing after him. McHugh took a hit, is able to get the ball away to Glenn O'Reilly, referee. Is he giving the free in, or is he giving the free? Yeah, it's a free in.
Yeah, free in. I think just as Conor McHugh turned, someone came across the back of him there. He managed to shovel off the pass. Yeah,
it was just a stray hand from Leon Young.
Hand, absolutely, yeah. But first time again that, you know, he's managed to show out in front to get hands on the ball. Gives Aaron Byrne a chance. You know, important. Almost 50 minutes into the second half with no score. So big kick for Aaron Byrne.
The wait is over. Na Fianna draw level.
Yeah, important score, but they're just not getting possession. Ballymun are really, you know, complete flip. They're dictating the pace, dictating the terms. Na Fianna are struggling to implement their game on it. Ballymun working so hard off the ball in terms of their tackling as well, that it's now become a challenge for Na Fianna to try and get out, get ball, and create scoring opportunities themselves.
Owen Dolan. Conlon. He's got Jason Whelan dropping deep to try and collect it, but Conlon will run it on. Whelan. James McCarthy. Lovely play by Ballymun. Very fast hands. Bounces out to Andrew McCall. Here's Dean Rock. Already one from play. Make it two. That is a wonderful strike.
Yeah, great score. You back him all the time, but just hung off on the edges of the play there. Great hands. Really fast stuff from Ballymun to ship it across to him. Has a small peep at the goalpost, but know well where they are. Drives it over the bar. Great score from Dean Rock.
And then Ballymun push up and put the pressure on, but Fitzgerald wins it in the middle of the pitch. Gets it down to Glenn O'Reilly. O'Reilly back to Fitzgerald. Conor McHugh is right beside him. On the overlap is Dean Ryan, but they don't spot him. Conor McHugh is dispossessed, but Glenn O'Reilly picks it up. Glenn O'Reilly through a gap. Took too many steps, and it's a free out. And the Ballymun bench are getting really into this.
Yeah, but I think the spot Ushin was there. You mentioned it before. Dean Ryan had shot by Conor McHugh, just failed to see him. He had snuck in around the back, passed there, and he's in on goal. Ballymun guys, crowding out on Conor McHugh, crowding out on the Fianna forwards, and all of a sudden that little bit of space they had, the little bit of time, the patience that they had on the ball, they're being asked the hard questions, and they're struggling just to find the gap, find the metre of space, find a pass into a forward, and as a consequence just struggling to get on the ball, create scoring opportunities for themselves. And Ballymun really dominating and dictating the play at the moment.
Owen Dolan. Philly McMahon. Jason Whelan. Owen Dolan. Carl Keeley. Byrne has a look up. Cameron McCormack. McCormack trying to round Farrell. Farrell standing his ground, to be fair. Bravely onto it there was Byrne. And it's a free to Ballymun.
Yeah, he really committed to it there, and I guess that's what Ballymun have been doing throughout this second half as they head into water break. Good chance for Na Fianna to reset, but Ballymun have been excellent since the throw in there. James McCarthy managed to get a score after 10 or 15 seconds of the second half, and they've been absolutely dominant since then. Real pace and power coming through there. That's how Ballymun play the game. They don't like to be stood back. They don't like to be without the ball. They like to be moving at 100 miles an hour. They're not very much about retaining possession and then maybe eking a score out after 10, 20 passes. It's how quick can we move the ball forward, how quick can we create those chances. And throughout that first 15, 60 minutes of the second half, that's what they've tried to do, implement their game on Na Fianna. And Na Fianna have been under pressure from their own kick-outs. Stephen Murray probably hasn't had a huge amount of options to go short, and even when he has, the Ballymun press has come on really fast to put the pressure on them. So just before half time, or the 50 minutes into half time, they had reeled off 1-5. They've only managed to get a score from a free in that first 15, 60 minutes of the second half. So big questions, big problems for Na Fianna. Need to reset, need to regroup, and how they set up to try and counteract what Ballymun are doing to them. But from a Ballymun point of view, they'll be delighted with that 15-minute burst across the second half. Have given themselves a good foothold now to try and go on and win the game.
Well, Na Fianna kicked on in the second half of the first half after the water break. They need to do something similar here, although there is just one between them. Ballymun have dominated the second period, I think it's fair to say. Or certainly they've played better.
Yeah, it has. I don't think dominate is the wrong word to use. I think you're right. I think they have really got on top of Na Fianna. What Na Fianna were excellent at in the first half was just recycling ball, making Ballymun work hard to try and compete for the ball. They haven't had the opportunity to do that in this half. Ballymun has just been relentless in the tackle and turnovers, and have reeled off 6-7 scores across the second half here. That puts them a point to the good.
And we resume with a Dean Rock free, which he goes backwards with. John Small. Carl Keeley is in acres of space on this near side, but Leon Young drives on. Jason Whelan. John Small. Rock had a bit of time and space, danced away from Cooper, now gets away from him again. I think that's going to drop in the square. And bounces wide. Murray was caught in two minds, though, the goalkeeper.
Yeah, he got a great score earlier, Rock, and he was probably looking to do something similar, but referee put a blocker on the quick kick out there for Stephen Murray.
Cooper. Lovely pass. James Doran. O'D. It's opened up. It's McHugh. Conor McHugh from Owen McHugh. Conor McHugh! They have butchered that chance.
Yeah, I'm not sure why the pass went to Conor McHugh. I know he's the go-to man for score, but as he spins across here, the second pass, you're through on goal, you know, let's go straight. Goes to McHugh, Philly McMahon stands him up well, and then he pulls it across the goal. The chance was probably there for McHugh to maybe take it on, if not go for goal, to pop it over the bar and bring it back to a tie game. They get nothing out of it, and Ballymun come away with the ball, having survived the scare.
This is where you can correct me as the guy who has never played at a high level, and you are someone who obviously has played at a high level. You won an All-Star, but James McCarthy came into his eye line there. Would that have put him off, Owen McHugh?
Well, quite possibly, but James McCarthy made two great runs there. First, to get back and try and turn the Fianna attack, and then secondly to get into Owen McHugh's eye line, as you rightly said. Either way, the decision was probably from McHugh. Do I go for goal or do I fist it over the bar? I think the pass left to McHugh was taking him away from goal and making the angle that little bit more difficult for him.
McCormack inside, running onto it is McCall. Tucks it away nicely, and it's advantage Ballymun.
What a finish. So cool, so calm, created space out of nothing, but just look at the pass. Suddenly it slips through two there, trying to make back to pick him up, but real cool and calm, slots the ball past Murray, and all of a sudden it's Ballymun who stretch out the lead.
Well, it's a 6-point swing in the matter of a minute, because Fianna had a goal chance, they got nothing from it. That was the real shame for them there. And then Ballymun go up the park and find a goal through Andrew McCall, who had big shoes to fill when he came in, because he replaced the injured Paddy Small.
Yeah, but the key thing there is making the decision when you're in front of goal, and McHugh took the wrong option in my view, going left to McHugh, and that time ball flips up the other end of the field, and all of a sudden there's a goal, and you go from being possibly draw a game to being 4 points down, and you're now looking to see where you can pull scores from. Couple of changes.
Adam Rafter has come in. Sean Caffrey has also come in for Fianna. So going off are Glenn O'Reilly and Niall McGovern. No, it's Paddy Quinn, I beg your pardon.
I think they've moved Niall McGovern to the middle of the field.
So Paddy Quinn and Glenn O'Reilly go off. David Lacey. They need a score. They need to respond to that goal, and they have done. That's a really good finish.
Yeah, great score from David Lacey there. It's taken them 22 minutes to get a score from play in the second half, but an important score. Gives them a little bit of a lift, a little bit of a lifeline, but it's pressed for Fianna now. They have to win a couple of these kickouts, not allow Ballymun work it out easy.
It's an easy excuse to pull out, but from the Fianna point of view, they really are missing Owen Merchant.
Yeah, they are. He'd certainly add impetus in terms of attack and go forward, but you know, there's still opportunity for them if they. Oh, great ball over the top.
Andrews presents it for Rock, who fists it over. Had it been presented a little bit better, he might have pushed it home, but it's better than nothing. Four between them.
Did great to change the direction of his feet there. Fake Andrews fired the ball at him, so he did great. He was coming across looking for something, did well to capture, turn and pop it over the bar. He's been excellent across this second half. Dean Rock has really led the line for Ballymun, and you know, the Fianna just struggling to put any few passes together to give them a chance to build a little bit of momentum in the game. And the big guys, the big names are certainly coming to the fore for Ballymun across this second half.
James McCarthy put it outside for Carl Keeley. Dean Rock almost punched it over with a bit of anger, like, I could have had a goal had you passed this ball right. Good turnover from Fianna. Now it's into the hands of Niall McGovern. Dean Ryan looking for it, but it's Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald inside to McHugh. There's a lot of green and red between him and the goal, but he's driving on regardless. McHugh over carries and gets nothing.
Yeah, but tough call on McHugh. It looked like he was being pulled out of there. In any other situation, you'd think there was probably a free coming his way. Referee does him for over carrying, and the things that may be working a little bit for them in the first half, just not happening as easy for them in the second half for the Fianna, and just can't get on the ball to put a few passes together to build a little bit of momentum and to create a few scoring opportunities. They've scored very little, but you know, outside of that, they've created very little in this second half to even give themselves a chance of winning the game.
Conlon receiving some, or McCormack receiving some treatment there. Good interception, well taken by Niall Cooper. Niall McGovern bobbing and weaving. Aaron Byrne, David Lacey. Wide.
Yeah, a little pass just in front. Niall McGovern had managed to shift off the ball. Again, crept round the side. You can just see McGovern has now gone round the back there. So the little pass through the gap there, and suddenly McGovern's in, and the score potentially comes a little bit easier. Just not spotting those opportunities and giving Ballymun, that breathing space by retaining that 4-point advantage.
The semi-final draw to come after this game for both Senior 1 and Senior 2. Kilmacud Crokes, St Jude's and Ballybowden all in the draw on the Senior 1 side. On the Senior 2 side, it's Templeogue, Sing Street, Coola, Nave Marnogue and St Bridget's. Doesn't seem like that long ago that St Bridget's were contesting a Leinster final. Here's John Small, James McCarthy. Jason Whelan pops it off for the run of Aaron Elliott. McCall goes into the corner, he wants it, but instead he goes short to Fiach Andrews. Andrews will take it on himself, and why not?
Yeah, great play from Ballymun. They worked that right out from the corner there. Really great score. They've been very clinical in everything they've been doing across this second half. Went through a patch in the first half where they just couldn't get their hands on the ball, but you flip it into the second half here. There was obviously some harsh words spoken at half time, telling the team that they can't be dictated, that they need to take ownership of the game. And what you've seen there is the likes of Dean Rock, James McCarthy and others step up and start getting on the ball and creating scoring opportunities. David Byrne has been very good across the second half too, and then the likes of Fiach Andrews chipping in with a score there where he's aware that they just need to keep the scoreboard ticking over now. Stretches out the lead by another point, and it's difficult now as you look at the Fianna, given the limited possession they've had. They've won 10 scored at half time. They've a couple of scores only gotten in this second half. Where are they going to get scores from? They haven't created much. They're struggling to get on the ball from a possession point of view, and that's all down to an increased work rate from Ballymun, reaching those high tempo levels that they like to play at. And the Fianna then are suddenly gasping for breath in terms of how do we put a stop on this. And better than that, from a Ballymun point of view, they've really put the press on Stephen Murray's kick out, not allowing the Fianna to go short, forcing everything to the middle and building from there.
Leon Young is being taken off to get some treatment. The Fianna coming forward, out it goes to Owen McHugh. Connor drifting around that 13-metre line. James Doran, Owen McHugh. Fitzgerald. Johnny Cooper is roamed forward. Aaron Byrne. Good take, but not a good pass. Philly McMahon intercepting from Sean Caffrey. And then Evan Comerford is fouled and it's a free out, and the Fianna look gassed.
Yeah, but great defensive work from Ballymun, a bit similar to what Raheny were doing against Ballybowden. Numbers behind the ball, pressure on the ball. There's guys being directed as to what way to travel, to put a guy on his left side or on his right side. They're really getting hands on, getting up and making it real personal for the Fianna and saying we're not going to let anything easy happen here. In the first half, they stood back a little bit from Ballymun. The Fianna were working it laterally. And then they were managed to pick off a couple of scores. They've been much better in this second half and putting pressure on the Fianna and not allowing them to build any bit of fluency or momentum.
Derek Conlon is brought to ground by Johnny Cooper.
Yeah, and he'll be lucky maybe not to see a black card here. Looked like he was pulled to the ground. Prior to that, Davy Byrne got hit late after he'd given a pass. So there could be a couple of guys being spoken to here on the Fianna side.
Cooper started to roam off and then he stayed standing close to the referee. Yellow card flashed at Fitzgerald. Now the ref is dealing with Cooper. What will the decision be? It's a black card for Johnny Cooper. So that's his game pretty much done because we're into the last minute.
Yeah, and correct decision. He certainly pulled him to the ground there, but frustration from Johnny Cooper's point of view, and the Fianna's they were worked so hard to put themselves in a good position.
Good steal from Niall McGovern. Conor McHugh does well to win it. Na Fianna need a goal. Aaron Byrne wants it, doesn't get it. It's a clever tactical foul from Eamon Hill.
Yeah, right decision, because obviously you're trying to stop Na Fianna from getting a goal to give them that bit of a lifeline with the couple of minutes left on the clock. Point, certainly not good enough at this stage. It's probably the only option that's on unless they decide to do something different.
Caffrey. James Doran beats the referee to it. Gus Farrell. Shunted on by Dean Ryan. Ballymun just dropping deep and clogging things up. Here's Niall Cooper. Niall Cooper just says, right, we have to let it in. We have to get it close to goal. That's a really good take by Owen McHugh.
Yeah, great take. There was a bit almost Australian rules-esque there, the way he came out and climbed into the sky. It was really, great effort at a fetch there. Conor McHugh had obviously gone backwards with the free earlier than that. Here's the ball in again. Yeah, great leap by McHugh to take the mark there.
And he was fouled because it is a free. Aaron Byrne is standing with it in hand. Will he try and Michael Meehan this one in? He's going first, couldn't keep it low enough. A point will have to do for now. I'm not sure they have enough time to reel Ballymun back in. 4 between them.
Yeah, a couple of scores for Aaron Byrne across the second half, but just not enough from Na Fianna, not enough possession of the ball, not enough movement up front for them. Really struggled to deal with the press that Ballymun put on them. From a defensive point of view, Ballymun have been excellent in the second half, and Na Fianna have just struggled to counteract that in any way for the last half hour.
Hand in from Gus Farrell, couldn't keep it in play. Ballymun ball. Remember, reaction to this game to come through @DubGAOfficial. That's the Twitter and Instagram account. Stay with us on Dubs TV, by the way, even after the full-time whistle, because we've got analysis and the draw for the semi-final for Senior 1 and Senior 2. Conor McHugh has dropped deeper to win some ball in the last couple of minutes. Fitzgerald. Caffrey's an option. James Doran. Pops it inside. Potential goal on here. Good save by Comerford from the boot of Lacey.
Yeah, great save Comerford there. Great movement from Na Fianna. First time we've really seen that little bit of interchange play from them, but Comerford stood big, gets a big save. And extra guys coming into play here, so probably a chance of a goal if they try to work it.
Jason Whelan inside to Andrews. Andrews takes his point in the end.
Yeah, and it'll be certainly good enough at this stage. And Na Fianna needed the goal the other end. Comerford did brilliant to stand up and get the block on. Great little pass from Doran to find the space. Just coming across, takes a little step to get across him, and Comerford stands big, makes the save. Ballymun come out with the ball, goes the other end, and Fiach Andrews pops it over the bar to just stretch out the lead once more. And
I'm sure Rock could have popped it over from there, but he actually thought to himself, you know what, if he runs it in, that takes more time off the clock.
Yeah, but there was, they had that spare man there, so they were thinking there's opportunity for a goal here. That's ultimately probably what they were thinking of working. And then when the door shut, Fiach Andrews rightly said, look, let's just pop it over the bar. We don't necessarily need the goal.
Johnny Cooper black carded a couple of minutes ago. Na Fianna have had a good goal chance, and even before that, half a goal chance from a free, but Ballymun have never really looked that uncomfortable in the second half. McCormack. Keeley. Andrews looking for 2 in a row. Kicks it wide though.
Yeah, they've been very good, Ballymun, in the second half here. Na Fianna have just struggled to deal with it. 110 in a second half is a great return. Given that they had struggled for 15 minutes of the first half there, where Na Fianna had built out that 5-point lead, but a big swing for them. Great attitude shown when, sometimes this Ballymun team, when they look at the last 10 years, they think, how have we not won more county titles? Well, they've demonstrated a great attitude today in terms of turning around that 5-point deficit to lead like they do, heading towards the final whistle.
These semi-finals have the potential to be great when you look at the talent involved. Ono D wins a free in.
Yeah, but I think the pressure being applied from Ballymun is ferocious. The game is won, but they're not letting up. They're constantly at Na Fianna, not allowing them to grow into any sort of rhythm.
Byrne. Into the square it goes. Niall Cooper. It's probably too late, but it's a good finish.
Yeah, he did well. It probably took a little flick going into the goal because it looked like Ballymun were a bit thrown by where it was heading for. Dropped perfectly for him. Picked it up. Sticks a boot on it. Does someone put a hand on it? Seems to just knock it out of the way of the goalkeeper. Great fight in the Fianna to keep going to the end, but I think it's probably just a consolation score at this stage, unless there's some time still on the referee's clock here.
21 plays 19. That is that. Na Fianna have given it everything, but it wasn't enough, and it's Ballymun who march on to the last four. The draw for which we'll have in a couple of minutes live on Dubs TV. The final score: Ballymun Kickhams 118, Na Fianna 213. Coleman Goggins, Ballymun deserving winners, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, certainly at half time it looked like it was teeing up nicely for Na Fianna to have a go off Ballymun. If going into this game, if you were positioning teams, you would have thought that Ballymun are probably one of the form teams, and maybe I won't say favourites for the ultimate prize, but certainly one of the better teams who have displayed over the last 3 games that they've played. But Na Fianna put themselves in a great position, 5 points to the good at half time. But obviously there's some choice words spoken over on the Ballymun side at half time. They decided they needed to change things around. They managed to influence their game on it, and it got to the right point where they were able to play pace, power, tempo, and then work so hard that they orchestrated so many turnovers and won 110 across the second half. Is a great return for the team, and a great return on the work rate that they demonstrated in that second half.
The draw for the semi-finals to come. Na Fianna will be desperately disappointed because when Conor McHugh got that goal, which was really well worked, granted still not the goal of the weekend, they would have fancied their chances because that put them into a good position.
Yeah, well, certainly all you could have asked for is that at half time you'd be in a position to try and go on and win the match. So Ballymun, in my view, would have come into the game as favourites for it. Na Fianna then had challenged that. I think the first 10 minutes Ballymun had shown the way they like to play, and then Na Fianna grew into the game. They were considered with their passing, and I don't mean that to say that they were slow with it, but they knew what they were trying to do. They tried to take the pace out of Ballymun's game, and it worked perfectly for 20 minutes. They rattled off, I think it was 1-5, put themselves in that position of 5 points to the good at half time. I would have felt quite confident at half time, but Ballymun obviously spoke about we can't afford to sit back. We need to be pace, we need to be power. It needs to be us that are dictating the terms of the game, and that's exactly what they did across the second half there. I think across the first 10 minutes they reeled off 6 unanswered points, and that gap of 5 points suddenly becomes a 1 point lead. Na Fianna are then starting to ask themselves questions going, how do we put a stop on this? But Ballymun didn't allow that to happen. They kept the pace, they kept the power, and from a defensive point of view, we've mentioned about this concept of putting players behind the ball. That's great, but if you're not doing anything, it doesn't work. They were powerful in their tackle. They worked Na Fianna really hard, and they just didn't allow that any bit of fluency to grow into the second half, and they went probably 15-20 minutes without a score and struggled really to have any impact in the second half. Na Fianna, great second half performance from Ballymun.
We'll talk more about Ballymun in just a second, but for Na Fianna it's another year gone. I won't say wasted because you learn from these things, and when you come up against good teams sometimes there's not much you can do, but they've had promising young talent for a while, and at adult level that young talent hasn't delivered.
Yeah, and certainly there's still talent within the ranks there. They had a change of manager, obviously, as we mentioned, when Dessie Farrell took on the Dublin senior job, so that would have had an impact. That Ballymun team are together a long time. They've been consistently very good, and they've had to adapt to 5 or 6 guys coming back from inter-county football and trying to fit them into a team, and that has a huge bearing on how the team play, and they've probably struggled with that. What you've seen today and what they've demonstrated in their group games is they've been together for 8 or 10 weeks. They understand how each other played. They trusted each other at half time that they were going to turn it around. Some of their big names certainly came to the fore in respect to that, and Dean Rock was highly evident in what he delivered across the second half. But there was huge support around the team and a huge understanding that they needed to up the tempo to turn the game around, which they did. So it's hard to look past a Ballymun team when they're as influential and as powerful as they were in that second half, and that's what they demonstrated. So they go into a semi-final draw quite confident that they can improve on what they delivered there. They were good for maybe 40 minutes, that 20-minute block in the first half where they didn't perform. If they put 60 minutes together at that pace and power, they're going to be hard to live with.
Okay, so Ballymun march on. They're the last name in the hat for the semi-final draw, which is about to start here in Parnell Park. No crowd, but lots of excitement, and we do miss you, and we appreciate that. We're quite honoured to actually be able to come to the games, but we're glad to be able to bring you these matches on Dubs TV. And by all means, if you want to join the conversation, you can do so via Twitter at DubGAA Official. That's also the Instagram account, and you'll be able to find us on Facebook. That conversation will continue, by the way, even after we go off the air, because Derek Ryan will be posting reaction from all of the games across the weekend. Are we ready to go for the draw? Ken O'Sullivan is the chairman of the CCCC, and we're about to start the draw. Ken, will we go with the Senior Football 1 or Senior Football 2 first? Senior 1 first, and the names in the hat, as you're aware at this stage, probably Ballymun Kickhams, Kilmacud Crokes, Ballyboden St Enda's and St Jude's. So just one team in there that has never won it, and that's St Jude's, but they'll fancy their chances, won't they? They'll think they have a chance. Anyway, if they're still in it, they have a chance. So Ken, please start the draw. For whom the bell tolls. Ballymun Kickhams, who have just beaten Fianna. Who's it going to be? Kilmacud Crokes. Johnny McGee managing Kilmacud Crokes along with Robbie Brennan, up against Brendan Hackett's Ballymun Kickhams. Paddy Carr has previously managed both of those clubs. Ballyboden St Enda's will play, well, Ken, I'll let you bring it out anyway. We know who it is. We'd be shocked if it wasn't St Jude's. There we go. Ken O'Sullivan, that's the draw for Senior 1. So it is Ballymun Kickhams up against Kilmacud Crokes and Ballyboden against St Jude's. Ballymun against Kilmacud Crokes. That's going to be quite a tie, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a mouth-watering one. There's no doubt about it. I mean, Kilmacud were excellent yesterday. You know, rattled off 4 goals and looked every time they got in possession that they could create goal chances. Ballymun's second half performance demonstrated there that, you know, from an attacking point of view, they're as good as anything that's left in it. So you really have two of the big superpowers of Dublin football coming together in a mouth-watering semi-final. You know, who goes on and wins a Dublin county title? You have to beat the big teams at some point. You know, Crokes have been very good. Ballymun will certainly feel that there's a good chance of them going on into a final, so it's a really interesting tie and one that I'm certainly looking forward to.
Ballymun looking for their 4th title, Crokes looking for their 9th title. Of course, the last came in 2018. Let's make the draw for the Senior 2 Football Championship semi-finals, and some good ones to be had here as well. Ken O'Sullivan again from the CCCC making the draw. Naomh Marnogue. St Bridget's. Coola. So a lot of talent in both of those teams in the Senior 2 semi-finals.
Yeah, you just look across some of the names coming out there, like, you know, Naomh Marnogue, certainly in my time, were one of the teams at the top end of Dublin football. They were always a hard team to play against. And then you look at St Bridget's, who, you know, whatever, less than 20 years ago were, you know, winning Dublin and Leinster titles. So a team that have dropped down would be mad keen to get back into the Senior Championship 1. You know, Temple Oak have been a consistent team over the last number of years where they've been, you know, there or thereabouts. And then Coola obviously are probably a growing club across Dublin football hurling, where they're just constantly on the move and improving. So I mean, any of those teams have absolutely got the potential to go on and win the Senior 2 title. But some interesting ties there in that, you know, Bridget's Marnogue is a great game, but similarly Coola and Temple Oak, so 2 souths, 2 norths, so you'll have a south-north final, which is always good.
And everyone is competing to try and show these games live. If they're not on RTE, if they're not on TG Car, the home of club football and hurling, then we'll have them on Dubs TV, and I hope they don't show them and we get the chance to show them, because it would be great to be there for those games. They're great to be here for those games. This has been a Dubs TV production. Dublin Senior Football Championship quarter-final action on across the weekend. More reaction to come from today's 2 games on the social media channels. At Dub Official GA is where you'll find us on Twitter, and indeed Instagram. You can find us on Facebook as well. If you missed these games, you'll be able to watch them back in full over the next couple of days. But today, Ballymun beating Fianna, and Ballyboden St Enda's needing extra time to beat Raheny. From Coleman and myself and everyone else on the team, it is goodbye, and we'll see you for the semi-finals.